I thought retirement would feel like freedom, like waking up on a Saturday morning when you're a kid, with the whole day stretching out ahead of you and nothing you have to do. I thought I'd feel lighter, unburdened by deadlines and meetings and the constant pressure to perform. I thought I'd finally have time for all those things I'd been putting off, the books I wanted to read, the places I wanted to visit, the hobbies I'd always said I'd get to someday. But when that last day at the office finally came, when I handed in my badge and packed up my desk and drove home in the middle of the afternoon for the first time in 37 years, I didn't feel free. I felt untethered, lost, like I'd been suddenly cut loose from something that had been holding me in place for so long that I'd forgotten how to stand on my own. Nobody tells you about that part. They throw you a party, they give you a watch or a plaque with your name on it, and everyone says congratulations like you've won something. And maybe you have, but they don't mention the Monday morning that comes a week later, when you wake up at 6:30 out of habit and realize you have nowhere to be. They don't talk about the strange hollowness that settles in when you understand that the rhythm you've followed for decades, the structure that organized your days, your weeks, your entire adult life, is just gone. I was 63 when I retired. Not early, but not late either. Right on schedule, according to the plan my financial advisor had mapped out years ago. The numbers all made sense. I'd saved enough, done everything right. On paper, I was ready, but nobody had asked me if I was ready in other ways, if I knew who I was without my job, if I had any idea what to do with all this time I'd suddenly been given. The first few weeks were fine. I caught up on projects around the house, fixed the leaky faucet I'd been meaning to get to, organized the garage, painted the guest bedroom. I met a former colleague for lunch, went to a matinee movie on a Tuesday afternoon just because I could. It felt novel, almost rebellious. But then the projects ran out. The novelty wore off, and I found myself sitting at the kitchen table at 10 in the morning with a cup of coffee, staring out the window and thinking, now what? My wife was still working. She wouldn't retire for another 2 years. So the house was quiet. During the day, emptier than I'd expected. I tried to fill the time. I joined a gym, started going in the mornings when it wasn't crowded. I volunteered at the library once a week, shelving books and helping people find what they were looking for. I took up woodworking, set up a little workshop in the basement. These things were fine, good even, but they felt like I was filling holes, trying to create a new schedule to replace the one I'd lost, rather than actually living differently. What surprised me most was the grief. I hadn't expected to grieve my job. I'd been ready to leave, burned out, tired of the politics and the pressure. I'd spent the last 5 years counting down, imagining how good it would feel to finally be done. But once I was out, I realized how much of my identity had been wrapped up in what I did. When people asked what I was up to these days, I stumbled over my answer. I'm retired, felt strange to say, like an admission of being put out to pasture. And the truth was, I missed parts of it. Not the stress or the early meetings or the emails that never stopped, but the sense of purpose. The feeling that what I did mattered, that I was contributing something, that I had a place in the world. I started noticing other retirees, at the coffee shop in the morning, at the grocery store on weekday afternoons. I wondered if they felt the same way I did, if they woke up some mornings and thought, is this it? Is this what I worked toward for 40 years? It seemed ungrateful to even think that way. I knew I was lucky. I had my health, enough money to be comfortable, a good marriage. There were people who would have given anything to be in my position, but knowing I was fortunate didn't change the fact that I felt adrift. One afternoon, about 4 months in, I was at the hardware store picking up some sandpaper for a woodworking project. The guy behind the counter was maybe in his 30s, friendly, making small talk while he rang me up. He asked what I was building, and I told him about the bookshelf I was working on. "Nice," he said. "Must be great having the time for that kind of thing now that you're retired." And something about the way he said it, casual, well-meaning, but with this undercurrent of assumption that I was living some kind of leisurely dream, made me realize how lonely I'd been, how isolated I felt in this experience that everyone seemed to think should be nothing but wonderful. I wanted to tell him that it wasn't that simple, that retirement was more complicated than I'd imagined, more disorienting. That starting over at 63 felt harder than starting over had ever felt when I was younger, because back then I at least knew what I was building toward. But I didn't say any of that. I just smiled and agreed that yes, it was nice to have the time. It was my daughter who finally said something. She came over for dinner one Sunday, and after we ate, my wife went to return a phone call and my daughter and I were loading the dishwasher together. She asked how I was doing, and I gave my standard answer. Fine, keeping busy, enjoying the slower pace. She stopped loading plates and looked at me. "Dad," she said, "you don't have to pretend it's all great. You can admit if this is hard." I don't know why that permission was what I needed, but it was. I told her the truth, that I was struggling more than I'd expected, that I felt purposeless sometimes, like I was just filling time until there wasn't any left, that I didn't know how to be a person who wasn't defined by work. She listened, and then she said something I've thought about a lot since. She said, "Maybe you're not supposed to have it figured out yet. Maybe this is just another beginning, and beginnings are always messy." Another beginning. I hadn't thought of it that way. I'd been treating retirement like an ending, the conclusion of my working life, the final chapter. But what if it wasn't? What if this strange, uncomfortable transition was actually the start of something else? Not a lesser version of what came before, but something different entirely. Something I couldn't plan or schedule or optimize because I'd never done it before and didn't know what it was supposed to look like. That conversation shifted something in me. I stopped trying so hard to fill every hour, to prove I was making good use of my time. I let myself have days where I didn't accomplish much of anything. I started saying yes to things that seemed interesting, even if they didn't fit into some larger plan. I took a pottery class at the community center, not because I thought I'd be good at it, or because I needed another hobby, but just because I was curious. I joined a book club that met at the library, and even though I didn't love every book we read, I liked the conversations, the way different people saw different things in the same story. I also started being more honest with people when they asked how retirement was going, not in a complaining way, but in a real way. And I discovered that a lot of other people felt the same disorientation I did. My neighbor, who'd retired a year before me, admitted he'd gone through something similar, that he'd spent the first 6 months feeling completely lost. A guy from my book club talked about how he'd struggled with depression after leaving his career, how it had taken him a while to realize that was what was happening. These conversations didn't fix anything, but they made me feel less alone. Less like I was failing at something everyone else seemed to find easy. I'm almost 2 years in now. I still don't have it all figured out. I still have days where I wake up with that same feeling of purposelessness, where I wonder what I'm doing with all this time I've been given. But I also have days that feel full in a way my working life never did. Days where I spend the morning reading or working in my shop, meet a friend for lunch, take a long walk in the afternoon, cook dinner with my wife, and actually have the energy to enjoy it. Days that don't look productive on paper, but feel rich anyway. I've learned that retirement isn't one thing. It's not a permanent vacation or a well-earned rest or a slow fade into irrelevance. It's a transition, and like any transition, it takes time. It requires letting go of who you were and figuring out who you might become. And that's harder than I thought it would be, because I liked who I was when I was working. That person made sense to me. But maybe there's something valuable in this uncertainty, in being forced to discover yourself again at an age when you thought you already knew. I don't think I'm alone in having expected retirement to feel different than it does. I think a lot of us build it up in our minds as this finish line we're racing toward, and then we get there and realize it's actually just another starting point. And starting over is hard. It's vulnerable and uncomfortable and sometimes lonely. But it's also an opportunity, if we can let it be. A chance to try things we never had time for, to be honest about what we actually want instead of what we think we should want, to build a life that's not about productivity or achievement, but about whatever matters to us now. I don't know if I'll ever feel completely settled in this new phase. Maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point is to keep trying, keep adjusting, keep showing up for this life even when it looks different than we imagined. To be patient with ourselves while we figure out what this beginning is supposed to become. What about you? If you've gone through this transition, or if you're in the middle of it now, what helped you find your way? I'd love to hear what you've learned about starting over.